What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Countdown Scouting Network. I'm your host, Joey Garcia, and today we are breaking down the last 14 wide receivers we have in our top wide receiver rankings for the 2024 draft. So, this is part 3. If you haven't seen the other list, we've ranked 40 guys, and we're down to our last 14. So, let's go ahead and get started. So, Jamari Thrash is my wide receiver 14 from Louisville. He is a slot receiver, kind of reminds me of Tank Dell. He might not be as fast as Tank Dell. A little bit of that Tutu Atwell, and maybe I'm saying that just because he's in that Louisville jersey like Tutu was, but he's shifty after the run. He can run good routes. He's more of an underneath guy. Maybe can take the top off a little bit. I don't think he's going to be as fast as Tank Dell was or Tutu Atwell, but he's just a guy who can do a lot with the ball in his hands. It's someone who you're going to want to get these manufactured touches to in an offense. So he's a gadget guy that can grow into more, but for right now, I think he's a nice wide receiver 3 and a gadget guy. Probably get him on, the 4th round, 3rd round, something like that. Here's one that I'm higher on than a lot of other people. Jacob Cowing from Arizona. He is purely a slot receiver. He's small. He's a little undersized. I believe he's 5'8", 175. So he's a smaller guy, but he kind of reminds me of just like what you would expect from Darnell Mooney when he came in the league. He's a slot-only guy. He's not going to play out there on the outside, but he's got a decent release package. He's bursty enough at the line of scrimmage, and he's a good crafty route runner. He's an underneath target. He doesn't have enough. I don't think he's got enough burst like Jamari Thrash, where you're saying let's manufacture some touches. But he's a guy who is going to be working in the slot, can run your out routes, your in routes, your drags, your zip routes. A seam ball every once in a while, but for the most part, if you've got an RPO system, this is probably someone who you really want on your team. He's probably a 4th or 5th round pick, if I'm being honest, but I just think he's going to step up and dominate. He is a little undersized, and that might be an issue. He might drop because of that, because I also don't think he's the fastest guy out there. He might run a 4.5, but he's got good enough hands. So I'm a fan of him. So we'll just have to see what the NFL thinks. But I think he's a guy who is a wide receiver 3, just day in and day out. Going to the next guy, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky. This is one that a lot of people are starting to really, really like since the Senior Bowl. I liked him last year. I thought he might come out last year. He ended up not, which was good for him. I think another year was probably good for him just to prove that he can do that consistently day in and day out. People were talking Deebo Samuel about him. I don't really see Deebo. I don't see that much burst or contact balance from him. I don't see crisp route running, but I see enough athleticism, enough yards after catch where he's a very exciting guy. This is one that might not pan out. He's one that it's really, you're projecting him to be something just because of him not running a diverse route tree. Really, everything is manufactured behind the line of scrimmage for him. But he's an athlete. He could be a Treylon Burks or a A.J. Brown type receiver. And I know A.J. Brown's a top 10, top 7 receiver in the league right now. But, I mean, even if he's a Treylon Burks, you get him in the 3rd round, I don't think anyone's going to be mad about that. So he could end up being a top 50 pick. This is one that's flying up boards right now. I've liked him for a while. But yeah, again, you're looking at someone that's being used in a Deebo Samuel. This is probably your kind of guy, but don't expect him to be Deebo Samuel. The next one, another guy that started flying up boards at the Senior Bowl, and that's Roman Wilson from Michigan. He's an undersized wide receiver. I think he's probably only a slot. He's got an okay release package, but he's 175 pounds as well, maybe 180 pounds. 5'8", 175 is probably what I I'm guessing he is. But he's shifty. He's explosive with the ball in his hands. He's got really good hands. Really, really good hands. He knows how to play off DB leverage. So this is someone that's a good route runner, has good hands, and it is explosive at the line of scrimmage. The biggest thing with him is, he's not going to break tackles. He's not going to be able to play on the outside, so he's probably just a slot for you. But, I mean, if you look at Cooper Kupp, when he started out, he was a slot-only guy. There's plenty of guys who are. Robert Woods was a slot-only guy. I mean, there's a lot of guys that start out as slot-only guys and maybe can become something more. But even if he doesn't become something more, in this day and age, there's a lot of guys that are working out the slot that are wide receiver ones, or at least on the stat sheet, they have wide receiver one stats. So Roman Wilson's a guy who's probably moved up in the top 40. And I really like him a lot. I think this is probably too low of a ranking for him, to be honest, but this is such a loaded wide receiver class that I couldn't move him up the board anymore. This is probably a controversial one, having him in the top 10. It's Tez Walker from UNC. He had a bad week at the Senior Bowl, and he is very raw. I just have him up here because I love his traits. His ability, I won't say his, pass catching prowess, because again, he has some drops. He has a lot of bad drops, but his ability to make fantastic plays, jump over guys, contort his body at the sideline, make one-handed grabs, he can do that stuff. He's just not consistent enough with it right now. He's explosive. He is fast. I mean, he's probably a 4.3 guy, and he's big as well. I think he's 6'1", 205 pounds, 6'2", 200 pounds, something like that. He's in that 6 foot, 200 pound range. So he's got good size, good speed. With the ball in his hands after the catch, he's also a very explosive person. Now, his route running, not really there. Again, he's a guy that transferred in from Kent State. Only played half the season at UNC because the NCAA didn't like his. They were going to deny his request to be able to play, and he wasn't even going to play this year. He got to play, and he's just very, very raw. But this is a guy that if he develops into what I think he can develop into, I mean, he's a top 5 receiver in the league. If he can develop into that. If not, he might pan out, or he might not pan out. But this is a guy who people are. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in round 1 just because of the raw talent he has. All right, our number 9 guy right here is A.D. Mitchell from Texas. He is a deep ball machine. He goes up, makes contested catches. He is fast. He might run a sub 4.3. He might. He'll definitely run sub 4.4. He might run a sub 4.3, and he's a big guy, 6'3", 210 pounds, running that. The thing with him would be his intermediate route running. Not really there right now. But his yards after catch are nice. His contested catch ability is very nice. His speed and size ratio are good. He can take underneath stuff, and he can take deep stuff. I just want to see him be able to run digs, run outs, be able to work off of the DB's leverage and try to figure out, like the next guy that we have on this list, be able to play off that DB and figure out where their blind spots are and really confuse them in route running. He doesn't have that. If he had that, he'd probably be a top 2 or 3 wide receiver in this class because he has everything else. Everything else. This is a home run pick. Even if you're just looking for a guy to be a field stretcher, this is a great one for you. Think about someone that, like the Gabe Davis role that Buffalo has. And I know I bring up Gabe Davis a lot, but that's just an easy one where he's a bigger body, can make some contested catches, but has enough speed where he's going to threaten downfield. Kind of like that, kind of like Jamar Chase, but I don't want to put him in the Jamar Chase atmosphere because that's big shoes to fill. The next pick, number 8 guy, we have Ladd McConkey from Georgia. He is probably just a slot receiver, but he's a gadget guy. He's not as fast or as quick twitch as a Jamari Thrash, as a Roman Wilson, and he's not as big as a Malachi Corley, but they're all kind of in that same hemisphere of a slot receiver who you want to just get the ball in his hands in space. He's quick twitch enough, but I don't want to say a genius, but he's a savant when it comes to route running and DB leverage. He finds the blind spots in these defensive backs. He runs crisp routes. I mean, this is a guy who it's almost like who was it? Yeah, Kadarius Toney, how he ran routes a couple years ago. Obviously, I think Ladd McConkey catches the ball a lot better than Kadarius Toney, and he's not as great of an athlete as Toney was. But you look at that. You look at Jaden Reed from Michigan State, who ran last year at the Senior Bowl. He ran great routes. Ronnie Bell from Michigan last year, who ended up being a 6th-round pick for the San Francisco 49ers. Like, guys that just understand how to use DB leverage. He's in that class. And I think he has enough speed. He's got enough burst where I don't see him not getting on the field day one. Day one, as long as he can get the playbook down. This is a day one wide receiver for you. I think he's a top 50 pick. He might be a top 40 pick. He might sneak into the first round, to be 100% with you guys. This is hands down an easy layup pick for any GM that needs a slot receiver. I mean, this is it for you. Going to wide receiver number 7 on our list, we have Xavier Leggett from South Carolina. This is a late bloomer. Last year, didn't really do anything at all. Couldn't get on the field at South Carolina. No one had him in their summer scouting, but as soon as he got out there, they're saying he's 6'4", 215 pounds. He runs a 4.4. He's making great catches. His yards after catch are crazy. He just went to the Senior Bowl, and he was not 6'4", 215 running a 4.4. He was 6'1 and a half, 215, which is still good. 6'1", 215 and running a 4.4 with the yards after catch and the agility that this guy has. I don't care that he's not 6'4". He's not going to be a jump ball receiver. I don't care. He runs good enough routes at this moment. He still has to get a little bit better at that. His release needs to be a little bit better. He needs to get a little bit more power and physical at the line of scrimmage, especially for a guy of his size. But I think he's a late bloomer. He's someone that really could become, I don't really want to say like a DK Metcalf type, but someone like that. I know he's not as tall as DK. DK is what, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" maybe, but he kind of is in that same realm where his short area quickness isn't there, but he's got long speed and yards after catch. When he's got the ball in his hands, he can make some guys miss. That's really what I see from him. I don't know if he will be DK Metcalf, but I think that is his ceiling. All right, next we have Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU as my number 6 wide receiver. He is one of 2 LSU wide receivers I have on this list. Brian Thomas Jr. is 6'4", 195 to 200 pounds, something like that. He's fast. He makes really good catches, contested catches over the middle when he's about to get hits. One-handed catches, sideline catches. He makes everything, and his yards after the catch are crazy. He's a guy who, if you hit him on a slant and he makes the middle linebacker miss, he's probably down the sideline, jukes out the safety, and it's in for a 50-yard touchdown off of a quick little 4-yard pass. He's someone that only really needs to work on release, work on route running, and just really understanding how to run routes, why you're running a specific route, when to you break off of that route. Learn those couple things, and honestly, he's a bona fide top 15 pick right now, I think. So if you're looking for an X receiver or a Z receiver, someone that is going to be able to be a deep threat, someone that can create after the catch and underneath catches, this is your guy. I think you can run screens with him even at 6'4", 200 pounds. You can run little bubble screens with him. You can run go balls with him. There's nothing you really can't do with him. I like this pick a lot. Now going to my number 5 guy, Troy Franklin from Oregon. This is one that is more of a boom or bust pick, but I just really like his yards after catch. He's a speedster. He's probably a sub 4.3 guy. I just think he's a little thin. That's my biggest concern with him. He's got good hands, though. He runs good routes. His route tree is not that diverse, but as a deep ball guy or a bubble screen guy, he can do both of those for you. He's got good enough hands. He's not going to drop anything. And his yards after the catch are really, really good. I don't know if he'll get picked in the first round. He probably won't. I really like him just because of I think his floor is high enough where he's going to be okay. Think of like a Marquez Valdez-Scantling from USF. That's kind of what I see with him. All right. Number 4, Keon Coleman from Florida State. I know he's getting a lot of hate right now. I know he's starting to fall down other people's boards. He's not really falling down mine, to be 100% honest with you. He had some problems catching contested catches this year, but for the last 2 years, it wasn't a problem when he was at Michigan State. I really don't see it being an issue. The biggest thing I see with him is I don't know how good his long speed is, and I just don't really think he can. I don't know if he can break off of routes and explode into a secondary direction that quickly. So if you're looking at him as a jump ball, Devontae Parker type receiver, I think that's it right here. But in my opinion, I think he can run more than what he was asked to run at Michigan State, and Florida State. I think they wanted him to just be the back shoulder king. I think he can do more. I think he can run some slants. I think he can run comebacks. I want to see what he runs in the 40. If he runs a sub 4.5, if he's like a 4.48 guy, I feel a lot more confident about this pick. This is one of my guys that might do me, All right, moving into the top 3. I'm just going to show all 3 because everyone knows who they are. Once you show one of them, you know where the rest of them go. Malik Neighbors, the last LSU receiver I have on here. A lot of people have him as wide receiver 2. Some people I'm hearing wide receiver 1 for. I think that's a little bogus, but I get it. He's an explosive athlete. He has good hands. He runs really good routes. He's an athlete. I think he's going to run a 4.4, maybe a 4.35, somewhere in that range. He's explosive. He runs good routes. He catches the ball. He does everything that you want. With these 3 guys, I'll kind of put them all together in a tier because I don't think between Malik Neighbors to Rome Odunze to Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think there's a huge gap. I still have Marvin Harrison Jr. as my my number 1 prospect, but I have Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors paired up right next to each other at, I believe I have them at 4 and 5. I'll have to double check that once we get into the rankings, but I have them at 4 and 5. So I love this wide receiver class. Rome Odunze can do it all. He's not as explosive as Malik Neighbors is. Malik Neighbors is an elite athlete. I think Rome Odunze understands how to play the position a little bit more, a little bit better. I think he makes better sideline concentration and contested catches. But Malik Neighbors is an elite athlete. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., he's not going to be as fast as Malik Neighbors, but he's 6'4", 195 pounds to 210 pounds. I want to figure out where he actually is on that. But even if he's 6'4", 195, he's not the fastest guy, but he'll run a sub 4.5, I think. He runs very, very good routes, probably a top 3 or 4 route runner in the class. He can explode out of breaks. It's not elite explosion, but it's enough explosion. His hands are the best in the class, by far the best in the class. He can jump really well. And I just think, I don't want to say I'm name scouting, but Marvin Harrison Jr. being the son of Marvin Harrison, the Hall of Fame wide receiver, it speaks volumes to his work ethic whenever you talk to him, and he knows what it takes to be a Hall of Famer. And so I think with his athletic abilities, and you can already see him having the knowledge for the game, all that on top of knowing what it takes to be a Hall of Famer is why I push him up to number one. Really, if you looked at it, if this was Joe Schmo instead of Marvin Harrison Jr., would I have Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors in front of him? Maybe, probably not. I would have them as close as I have them right now, where I mean, there's really no room. I have Marvin Harrison Jr. graded as a top 5 pick. I have Rome Odunze and Malik Neighbors graded as a top 10 pick right now. So I don't think any of them get outside the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 of them went in the top 5. The only thing would be, wow, it pushes like a Joe Alt out of the top 5, because I think we still get 3 quarterbacks in there. But all 3 of these guys are top 10 picks, top 5 picks. And in any other draft, they would be wide receiver 1 on their own. So, yeah, if you disagree with my rankings, go ahead and leave that down in the comments. I want to have some civil discourse about that, because this is all theoretical. It's it's not it's a science, I guess, is what they call it. So, yeah, I mean it's not perfect. It's not fact. It's just opinion. So go ahead and put your opinions down in the comment section. Let's talk about some of your favorite wide receivers in this draft class. Starting on Tuesday next week, we'll go into the tight ends class, and then get into the tackle class, which this is a really good tackle class. I love this tackle class. So if you enjoyed, go ahead and like the video and subscribe, because we're going to be doing probably 3 to 5 videos a week from here on until the preseason. So have a good day, guys. Peace.